Good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Mark Pena here. I'm joined with meteorologist Jordan Evans, and we're going to just talk a little bit about the incoming winter storm. We're about 24 hours now away from when we'll start to see some of the snow falling across the area. And it's looking like a pretty impactful storm system that will start tomorrow and last through a good chunk of your Monday, bringing some of the biggest snowfall totals we've seen in a couple of years now. So as I mentioned, joined now with Jordan Evans, who is off right now. He's very courteously joining us from home at this time. So thanks for joining, Jordan.
Hey, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Okay, so we're talking snow, which is not unheard of for DC in January, but we don't see snow often. So I think that's the main thing that we want to drive home is that this is going to bring some impacts that people just aren't used to. And so what was issued earlier is a winter storm warning by the National Weather Service that goes into effect beginning tomorrow. And you'll see on the map here that this winter storm is going to stretch quite a ways. It extends several hundred miles out towards the west near Kansas. And so you'll notice every county that you see shaded in pink here is where we expect the higher snowfall totals, and areas north where you see those blue colors, that's a winter storm watch where snowfall totals around 2 to about 6 inches there. And Jordan, I know you have a little bit more experience with snow living in areas like Kansas. And what are you expecting with this particular system based off of what you have been picking up since coming to work?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a classic track going right across the plains, the I-40 corridor. You've got the warm air to the south. You've got the cold air up north with the Arctic front coming in yesterday, Mark. I mean, that has set the stage for a winter storm, really, for places that don't typically see winter weather as often as areas farther north. So with that storm track going right along where we have the cold air, that's where you kind of get everything. You've got the severe weather threat in the south, you've got the ice storm in parts of Kentucky, Missouri, and then for us, we're looking at a mainly all snow events with potentially some sleet trying to mix in.
Yeah, and that's typically what happens here in DC, right? We either have the cold air, but not enough moisture to get snow, or we have the moisture, but it's just never cold enough for the snow to fall, and it just comes as rain. So here we are. We're getting the ingredients needed for this to be a snowmaker. So we've got winter alerts, and that says possible alert because I haven't added the style guide. Give me just a second, and I will show you what.
Yeah, this will be a winter storm.
Yes, there we go.
Highly confident for a winter storm.
Yeah, winter storm. Snow starts across the area from the southwest, moving towards the northeast. So areas like Central Virginia, Northern Virginia, you're going to get the snow first, as opposed to areas like Central Maryland. Snow starts tomorrow and becomes more widespread after midnight. And as we've been talking about, the Arctic air is in place. Temperatures barely got above freezing, even with sunshine. And today, we're going to drop well into the upper teens to lower 20s tonight. And then for tomorrow, maybe a degree or two warmer with highs mainly in the mid 30s, but that's still spending most of the day below freezing. So the Arctic air is in place. And accumulation will likely start to happen almost immediately across the area, where in recent snow instances, we have to have that ground cool enough for anything to accumulate. And I don't think that's going to be the case this time.
Yeah, I mean, even tomorrow will be above freezing, maybe for a few hours. But with clouds coming in, the ground's not going to have much time to thaw or go back above freezing. So I think, once snow starts falling, it's likely going to start sticking.
Yeah. But that said, though, like you mentioned, Jordan, we are expecting areas to start off with sunshine tomorrow. So most of your day is going to be dry. Don't let that fool you, because again, it's going to start to cloud up as we head towards the afternoon hours. And pretty much once those clouds come in, your temperatures will lock in place for the afternoon. Temperatures, again, mainly in the mid 30s across the area. But then once the sun sets, and especially as we head towards tomorrow night, that's when the snow begins. Now, here's one of our pretty reliable high-res models. This updates more frequently than the long-range models that we've been using. And notice the clear skies. This is going to be your future clouds and radar. Here come those clouds by 3 o'clock, but we are still dry. It's not until about midnight when the snow begins to move in from the south and west, as I mentioned. So areas in Virginia, you're going to get snow for longer, as opposed to areas like Montgomery County and northern Prince George's County. This is midnight tomorrow, and so expect some moderate to even heavy snow at time. And as we head towards the noon hour on Monday, that's when it'll slowly start to taper off. But Jordan, I know you were kind of picking up on this earlier with some of those wraparound snow showers for the evening time frame on Monday.
Yeah, cold air, I mean, even colder air coming on the backside of this low. So still some moisture. It's getting squeezed out the atmosphere. So another inch or two is possible. we'll kind of see that lull between the heavy stuff in the morning
Yeah.
to, I'd say, lunchtime to 4 o'clock. So maybe a few hours with not much snow or some flurries, but then don't be surprised by 7, 8 p.m. At least some light snow showers try to come in.
Yeah.
And then probably out of here all by 10 o'clock with clouds going away.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm pulling up anybody that's watching right now. If you are watching, please ask us questions. We're here. This is a pretty
Mark,
casual,
we've got one
conversation.
we've got one
Oh, you
from
do?
Eric, and Eric says potentially a maybe a little bit farther south track. Of course, if that happens, I mean, yes, that's going to take the snow totals with it. But overall, we're on the cold side of the system. So even if the system does go south, I mean, that takes the threat for any sleet south with it. So
Right.
at least the bands of, I mean, Mark, you'll show the totals here, but at least some of
Yeah.
the heavier bands as of now could be anywhere from I-66 to Culpeper to Fredericksburg. I mean, it just, that's going to be really the part is once this starts, where do the heavy bands set up?
Right.
And, that's going to be the big question.
Mm-hmm. And you'll notice again, since this the heaviest snow starting in Virginia, that's where we're going to see the heaviest snowfalls. But areas in the Montgomery County and northern Prince George's County, you're still going to get some pretty decent snowfall amounts. And keep in mind, we're not trying to sound any major alarms here. Again, it's January, and we're in the Mid-Atlantic, so this is not unheard of. But mainly, it's just catching people off guard. We don't see snow as often, so travel will likely be impacted. Airports will likely be impacted as well, as this is just going to take a long time for people to clean up and treat in order to get things back in motion. This is just one model that we're showing you here on your screen. And notice again, it's mainly into portions of Central Virginia, but I also want to show our spread of other models that we're looking at here. And we're trying to just notice a trend. Right now, I think it's safe to say that the DC Metro, anywhere from around 4 to 6 inches possible. The outliers is that 9-inch. And I think that's going to be mainly for areas in Virginia.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I look at this, Mark, for the first time since this morning. The data has come down slightly.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're becoming more in check with reality in terms of, aligning with the storm's track. So, I mean, if the track has shifted, 30 or so miles south, maybe that takes a little bit of that heavy snow with it. But I'd say, I think we're still holding on to our forecast of 4 to 6 isolated areas of 7 to 8. It could be as far north as Frederick, Maryland. But I think also, too, we're going to see some of that sleet mixing in as well. South of 66, Mark. So even though it looked like the heavier totals were in Central Virginia, I don't think that model is taking into account some of the sleet that could happen.
Right.
Of course, sleet is going to pack down snow a little more. So that would decrease the layer, decrease the column once you stick the yardstick or the meter stick in there to measure that.
And I'm controlling this, everybody, if you're watching from our computer right here to the right. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm going to pull up that ice graphic that you have, Jordan, and let me pull this in right now and see if this works. Let's see. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, pretty light amounts of ice. This is the European model. Did you use the graph earlier, Jordan? Was that?
And I used the regional view to just show the ice potential in Southwest Virginia. And I mean, if this is even going more south, then this could be a trend that some of the models are catching on, that a storm has just shifted a little more south. So, hey, that would take the ice threat out of DC and our region completely. That may push it farther south toward the North Carolina state line. I know the winter weather advisories have been issued for the border down toward North Carolina. So, I mean, there could be some ice potential there. Roanoke, Virginia Tech there, that's, some big campus as well. So, I mean, we could be looking at, I wouldn't say full-on ice storm. There's not an ice storm warning put out at this moment, but definitely going to have more slick spots and probably more travel issues down there.
Yeah, and keep them. Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind too, like areas like Richmond, a tenth of an inch of ice can still cause some major issues. So mute that. Sorry, I got us up on YouTube here. Just trying to check our comments if anybody's watching. So a tenth of an inch of ice in areas like Richmond and areas in Southern Virginia can still cause some issues. So while there's no major ice threat right now, it won't take much to cause some headaches. So a couple more graphics I want to go over is going to be some just winter weather preparedness. Again, this is the Mid-Atlantic. I'm sure we are preaching to the choir when it comes to winter weather preparedness, but for some maybe that have moved here recently and haven't dealt with wintry weather, or if maybe just need to get brushed up on, we're likely to see some school and work closings. So plan on hopefully a snow day.
Already announced as well.
Yeah, right. Road closures, again, the main concern with this particular winter storm will just be the travel impacts. Roads are likely going to get shut down, especially elevated roadways, as those are typically the ones that freeze over first. And then flight cancellations likely going to happen Sunday night into Monday before things get back into motion and moving by Tuesday. And then we can never rule out some power outages as well. Anything you want to add to that one, on Jordan?
Not particular. I mean, again, with the threat of ice pretty low, that's going to lower the threat of power outages. We don't have winds with this system, so we're not expecting a blizzard. Trees aren't going to come down likely. With temperatures at least closer to the upper 20s, low 30s. And I've looked at the atmospheric column too in the models. I mean, it's going to be in the low 20s above us. So this will probably be more of a powdery snow instead of that wet, compact stuff, which is nice in terms of dealing with impacts. But of course, that can cause a lot more slipperiness or slickness out there as things get going. Yeah.
And then just want to show the 7-day too, because after this, gotta love that sound right there. The snow falls and tapers off by Monday evening, but notice temperatures staying at or close to freezing each afternoon. So snow will likely be around for a while. So something that we'll have to keep in mind. But I think by the middle part of the week, we'll start to get the roads moving, and basically we're just looking at the snow piling up on the grassy surfaces and sides of the road. So in my opinion, Jordan, a pretty moderate impact here. Not, like you said, not looking at blizzard conditions, not record totals of snowfall, not record cold temperatures, just a pretty middle of the road winter storm.
Yeah, our biggest storm since early 2022. If we can get to that 6-inch mark in Washington, D.C., it'll be our biggest snow in 3 years.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the dry conditions. The sun will come out, so that'll help kind of radiation melting with roads. But of course, with any wet roads out there, once temperatures fall at night, we could see the potential for black ice and other stuff, other slick spots overnight as temperatures drop. So I think icy roads will be a big concern each morning after the storm passes, just because of the sun that's going to melt. With radiation melting, we get the wet roads to freeze at night, and that's what's going to cause that. As we wrap up, Mark, pull up the snow total map. We've got some others on Facebook.
Yeah.
See that one last time.
Yeah, I saw it too, actually. Here's one forecast model.
Yeah.
So,
do you have the European model by chance?
I can grab it. Let's see here.
I just would like to see how that is comparing.
Yes.
And what's nice is the other short range model. It's called the HRRR. That's going to catch up with this system by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to look at that going into tomorrow morning. And that's kind of another high resolution model that does pretty well with snow totals.
All right, pulling it up now. So we're on the higher end,
Okay, but it is in line with maybe that slight shift going just ever so south. And again, it's not. I don't think it's taking into account the potential for some sleet. Right. Where you see those bright pinks. I mean, that's indicating a foot of snow, and I think that might be a little on the high side. Right. If this was all snow, potentially there is a good amount of moisture, but of course, sleet, can compact the snow as it falls. So I think.
I think the main takeaway with this, I'm gonna. Okay, so the trend here, right, is that the heavier totals likely in Virginia. This is the the European model. Again, notice where all the pink is in Virginia, and then here's the graph model showing a similar trend here, right? We're not looking at pinks in areas like Maryland, right? So the trend is that the heaviest snowfall will likely be along and south of I-66. So now we just have to watch and wait how the exact path of this storm is going to go. If it shifts slightly to the north, 20 miles, shift all of these snowfall totals that you see here along with it. So, and it's a pretty tight gradient as well. 3 inches in Baltimore and 10 inches in Fredericksburg. That's a stretch of about 100 miles, so very tight gradient of where some of the heaviest snowfalls is. we will be here. I'm here all night. Jordan comes back in tomorrow. And then heading into tomorrow night, I'm actually going to be alongside Chief Meteorologist Veronica Johnson. So we are covering this from every angle. We have all of our news folk on this as well. So we're going to just continue to monitor this, continue to update you with any of the latest forecast models. If this takes a shift up to the north or to the south, we will let you know.
Yeah, it's been kind of wobbling.
It has.
Back and forth
Yes.
over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
But I mean, the storm's over the middle of the country now. So as the balloons go up in it, out ahead of it, you know, that data feeds the models. So really, it's just going to get more accurate from here. That's why I like that graphic bar that's got the stages of winter forecasting.
Yeah, I've got it up. I can pull it up for you too, just so we can close out with it.
Yeah, that really does a good job explaining why we can't nail down snow totals a week out. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, one, we're predicting the future, but two, the models are equations, you know, so they are equations in the atmosphere that are trying to figure things out. And if you don't have good data to start with, you know, good observation data, which when a storm system is over the ocean, I mean, you don't get that good of data. So 1 to 2 days out is when we can start nailing timing, amounts, and impacts, like you mentioned.
Yep, couldn't have said it better, Jordan. Thank you all for everybody who is watching and your comments. Again, I'm here all night, so if you have any questions, I'm going to be on all the social media platforms. You can message me directly with your questions. Other than that, I think we'll call it right now, Jordan. Thanks for your time. Thanks for everybody who is watching. And again, stay tuned with us as we continue to iron out this forecast.